All right, mic check, 1, 2. Mic check. Put a 1 in the chat, ladies and gentlemen, if you can hear me. Put a 1 in the chat. Good morning, happy Sunday. All right, mic check, 1, 2. Mic check. Put a 1 in the chat, ladies and gentlemen, if you can hear me. Put a 1 in the chat. Good morning, happy Sunday. All right, mic check, 1, 2. Mic check. Put a 1 in the chat, ladies and gentlemen, if you can hear me. Put a 1 in the chat. Good morning, happy Sunday. All right, mic check, 1, 2. Mic check. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Wake it up, people. Wake it up. Okay. All right, we're just doing a sound check real quick. This is an exclusive interview. Hold on. Oh yeah. Let me stretch it out a little. Hold on. Oh. One more minute. Oh yeah, I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good, ladies and gentlemen. I'm feeling good here. Okay. Get your weight up. All right. Okay. Enough of the music. Enough of the music. All right, ladies and gentlemen. So what you're about to watch, I'm waiting for the guests. Hold on. What you guys are about to watch is an exclusive interview I did with the man who was seen outside of federal courthouse last week with a sign saying Diddy tried to kill him. You remember I was telling you guys about this on my last live? Well, I want to share some of the interview with you tonight. Today, not tonight. Yeah, I'm in Atlanta, so it's today. I'm sorry, it's dark in here. Ooh. Okay, so I know him as Relentless Aaron, and you guys will come to know him as Mr. Gilmore. He's on a sort of press run right now, promoting the book that he wrote, talking about his encounter with Sean Diddy Combs in New York back in the 90s. He tells a harrowing story about a car chase in Midtown Manhattan. And those are from New York know any type of car chase in Midtown Manhattan is dangerous. This happened in Herald Square. So we're gonna bring the clip up. We're gonna bring them up. We're gonna get rid of that. Let's get that banner out of here. But before we start that, make sure you guys are hitting the like button because we about to get in some things here. Make sure you hit that like button. Yeah, we're about to bring Mr. Aaron up. Here we go.
Stage at the Jodeci concert. And he walked up to me and he put his hands on the wall near me. He's like, yo, bro, every time I see you, I just get vexed like that. And he said shit like I want to take some kind of drug. I don't know what drug he mentioned, but that's what he said at that moment. Like he needed some sort of drug to bring him down from how angry I made him. And so, I didn't say nothing to him. I was like, that was before Palladium. So meanwhile, again, we saw each other.
Attention was high. Attention was
high. Yeah. So anyway, that night, I turned the corner. Before you know it, we're on Herald Square, right there where Macy's Parade is staged. And his car veered over to kind of cut my Jeep off so that I had to pull up on an island in Herald Square. I figured, okay, let's go. Lance jumps out the car. I jump out the driver's seat. And Puffy and his bodyguard get out of his car. But at that moment, we realized it wasn't just Puffy. There were four other cars, Dennis, and they were loaded with his goons. Okay, and one of them popped off a shot, Dennis, and the shot hit the Jeep. And at that moment, Lance yelled, "Gun!" And I already knew Lance didn't. Lance told me along that, look, yo, I'm not packing, and I wasn't carrying nothing. So we were out in New York City. At about 1 and 2 in the morning. So I jumped back in the trooper. Lance jumps back in, and I used that trooper.
Wait a minute. You guys are saying you're hearing the echo? Wait a minute. How about now? You still hear the echo? Do you still hear the echo? Okay, hold on. I don't want you to hear echo. I want you to be able to hear the interview. To hear echo. That's never a good thing. You know why you hear echo? Because I might have a phone somewhere nearby. Stand by. Stand by, ladies and gentlemen. Let's see, the echoes disappeared.
Like it's a stick shift, so I used it like a horse.
I know. I used to ride one of those troopers.
Drove over the island. Now him and his cronies are chasing me, and we're going down one way. We're going on sidewalks. I was on two wheels at one point.
Well, hold on. Did you see who fired the gun? I just heard it.
There was too many people. There was too many people. I heard it, and of course Lance said, gun, run. And so Lance is crazier about this than I am. He's way more passionate.
All right, guys, let me fix that echo because I don't want you to miss anything. And we may have to rewind. Stand by. Stand by.
Because he had a lot more to lose. You know me and Puffy, we got a life. You know, literally, we have a life. We have my books. He has records. You know, what's going on. Lance could have caught an L here that night. You know what I mean? And nobody would have thought twice about it. Just like nobody really know who Natasha Rubin was, who got shot by him years later. It's like we are Lance, you know what I mean? He's the important factor here. So anyway, Lance was a factor because he was the one that shouted gun, and he was the one that encouraged me to get back in the truck, and so that's how that happened. And so we're in a little road race at this point, going down one ways on sidewalks, veering around. I was on two wheels at one point, and eventually I lost him at a traffic light.
So this is in Midtown near Macy's.
Yes, near Macy's.
And you were going the wrong way. What time in the morning was this?
It's like one or two in the morning.
Okay.
So what is busy?
You have Midtown South Precinct, a couple of blocks up.
Honestly, I did not. I didn't know where I was running.
Right.
So I ended up crossing 42nd Street and 7th, and that's where I lost him. And honestly, we did not go to the police. Dennis, my hand to God, all I had was revenge on my mind. All I had was revenge on my mind. I knew where Misa lived. She lived in Rochelle. I lived in Rochelle. We lived on the same block on Main Street. I lived in a big house next to the high school. She lived blocks up next to White Hill Country Club. And so I was familiar that the kids were picked up and dropped off there. I was, it was a situation. It was going to be a situation. Just really being honest with you.
And Aaron, in the 90s, there weren't cameras in New York City on the streets. There was nothing like that in the 90s. So anyone's familiar in New York, no, it wasn't cameras. It was barely what kind of phones do we have back then? Do we even have
with the antennas? You know what I mean?
Yeah. So this is not New York of the 2020s. This is New York of the 90s. So all that, no cameras, none of that. You had the
antenna, Dennis. 1 out of 12. Come in.
No, but I don't want to make light of this, but I understand how you had to move back then in the 90s. And if you had to have the MCI two-way pages back then. And you couldn't beam no help either. It was different back then.
It was different.
When people hear stories back in the 90s, you got to put yourself in the mindset there. You would have had to get on the corner, pull some quarters out your pocket, or maybe it was quarters. Dimes are back in the 80s. You had to drop a quarter on somebody.
You could probably, use a payphone. It was literally, this was the world. But the whole point here, so Dennis, after that, because I'm sure you want to know what happened after, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So after that, I was very much in a revenge state of mind. Young black male, ego, machismo, call it what you want. That's where I was with it. And Lance was like, yo, just chill. The worst time for you to do get back is right now. Just wait until everything cools. And so that's what it was. But Lance knew where Puffy was going to be the following night. And what Lance did is he went down to the Copacabana where him and whatever pulled up, and he took license plate numbers, and Lance was. Let me tell you something. Lance was.
Before you go any further, do we know if the Puffy? Do you know if Puffy ordered this? How do you know Puffy?
It happened too quick. There's no way he could have ordered it. Like you say, we didn't have cell phones like that. He had his goons that were riding behind him. That shot that popped off was most likely them, just being strap hangers, being sort of an allegiance to him. You know what I mean? So that's how that happened. I'm just so glad I didn't get shot. I'm so glad that I didn't get stomped out. It could have happened in numerous ways where I could have died that night. And I'm so grateful that the aftermath did not.
Did you file a police report?
No.
Okay. Why didn't you file a police report?
Again, I was in the state of mind of revenge. And why would I put this on record if my plan was to come back for him? So no, I didn't. We don't. At my mindset, we the streets. No, that's not how we do. You know what I mean? That's
I know, I get it, but some people who follow the I would call it the proper protocol would say call the police. But if you grow up in New York and you were about if you were about that life, the police would be probably the last people you would call. And some of you might not understand that, but police weren't the best friends of people of color growing up in the 90s. We know this to be true when we speak about Larry David's situation. Anyone from New York understand what I'm talking about.
And especially if you're bringing attention to somebody that has money and influence and fame, then you're really outnumbered. You know what I mean? Because the person with the money and the influence and fame is the guy that really can pay people off or has influence or what have you. So I already knew that I was outnumbered anyway. The only way for me to do was get back at him.
Right. And plus you are still moving in the party scene, and your name would be mud in the streets, and no one would have no respect for you. So I get it.
True that.
I get it. Even their respectable businessmen, some don't.
We don't get no love.
Drop the court on people. So I get that part. Now let me ask you a question. What was it like after the fact when you seen Puff moving in the streets afterwards?
There were 2 times that Puffy and I ran in after that. One, I was at Def Jam. I was Def Poetry Jam. The Def Jam would invite me to these filmings, and I'm on some of the stuff that you see on YouTube where, the Martin Lawrence and all. And so we were coming out. I didn't even know he was there, but we were coming out at the let out of Def Jam, and he was out there with his son on his shoulder. And literally he says, "Justin, say what's up to Gilmore." And, like he was making not jokes, but making light of, like, forget about everything that happened. By the way, probably a year or 2 passed before, when I saw him again. And then there was one other time that I saw him. I was coming out of the Blue Note. I think that was 43rd Street. And the Blue Note was juxtaposed right next to the recording studio where Pac got shot. And so, and I've been up to that recording studio, but Puffy was coming out of the studio, and coincidentally, I was coming out of the Blue Note. We were alone. He was alone. I was alone. But he had a cast on his arm. And me, I was in a different state of mind, Dennis. I was kumbaya at that point. It wasn't no way I was going to go swing on him or confront him or whatever. It was just like I gave him a heads up, like, I see you. And he gave me the heads up. He saw me. I definitely had him at a disadvantage. I could have definitely done something, but I don't know. I don't know what, in my mind, I was in a different space in my life, whatever it was, Dennis. So that was the last time I saw Puffy. I then went away for some.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen. So that is the 10 minutes of an hour and close to an hour and a half interview. I can play the rest of the interview if you guys like, or I can just keep it in the membership and you guys go to the membership. I'm kind of leaning towards playing the entire interview. Put a 1 in the chat, ladies and gentlemen, if you want me to play the entire interview. Put a 1 in the chat. Otherwise, I could just leave it in the membership section. You guys can go on over there in the membership section and play the entire interview. He tells a riveting story about his encounter with Puff in the 90s. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to take a 3-minute break. I'm going to watch the comment section. If the majority of the numbers is a 1, then I'm going to continue playing the interview. If it's a 2, that means I'm keeping it in the membership section. With that, please stand by.
was directed at getting the show on public access, but what I did was
Cassie Ventura's lawsuit said a lot. It told a lot. But this is about the perfect time to talk about this because this interview is a interview, and he's going to tell you a powerful story. When he told me the story, I'm from New York, and I could only imagine what was going through his mind as he had to flee for his life. So, ladies and gentlemen, detailing his experience in
All right, ladies and gentlemen, it looks like the ones overruled. Stand by.
in the 1990s in the New York hip-hop scene. The book highlights his journey, focusing on a harrowing night involving a high-speed chase with Sean Puffy Combs. This memoir provides a raw look into the music industry's challenges and showcases Gilmore's relentless resilience and ambition, ladies and gentlemen. And he's going to tell you a powerful story. When he told me the story, I'm from New York, and I can only imagine what was going through his mind as he had to flee for his life. So, ladies and gentlemen, without any further ado, I want to bring in my good friend, Relentless Aaron. Relentless, how are you tonight? How are you?
Good.
How are you?
I'm good. I appreciate you.
Man, this interview was a long time coming. I know you and I talked about it a couple of months ago. I know we had planned to do this interview, but this is about the perfect time to talk about this because this interview is an interview that many people are going to look at and say, wow, it has to be some truth to this because this happened to me. Well, I'm not, again, ladies and gentlemen, Puffy, Sean Combs has not been convicted of any crimes. But it appears that people are coming out the woodwork and they're telling their stories. We learned during January when Cassie Ventura filed her lawsuit and the next day was settled. That lawsuit was read like an indictment, but the lawsuit was settled with an undisclosed amount, but we guess probably in the range of 20 million, I don't know if he got 30 million, but it was settled pretty quickly. Then there were subsequent lawsuits that came out involving other individuals, and the latest one was involving a videographer by the name of Lil Rod. That lawsuit, while not as powerful as Cassie Ventura's lawsuit, said a lot. It told a lot, and they got to filter through this. And when I say they, the civil jurors will have to filter to see what is truth and what is fiction. But besides that, Aaron has a story that he wants to tell, and I'm going to let him tell the story. Aaron, Relentless Aaron, tell everybody where you grew up at. Where did you grow up at?
I'm from Mount Vernon, New York.
Money earning Mount Vernon.
Money earning Mount Vernon.
What was your life like in the 90s, growing up in New York?
I was just out of the Marine Corps. I was looking for trying to figure life out, what I was going to do with my life. And I basically fell into hip hop promotion, concerts and parties. When I say fell into it, there's a theater in Mount Vernon called the RKO Theater. I initially wanted to renovate the theater. I met this old lady that there was a store owner in the building. She gave me the keys to the theater because it had been run down for years. It wasn't used it wasn't used for many years. So one thing led to another, and someone says, hey, why don't you rent a place? So we ended up renting Memorial Stadium in Mount Vernon, New York, where there hadn't been concerts there except for like the Jacksons back in the 70s. So I got the stadium for $150. Mm-hmm. The place held tens of thousands of people. I couldn't get the Lionel Richies of the world. So instead, I looked on the back of the record album of Profile Records, right? And I saw the management of different artists. And so Run DMC was a very popular group at the time. They were also the least expensive. And so the back of the album gave me, Rush Productions. So I ended up going down to 25th Street, walking into Russell's office and dealing with him directly to book artists. So that was my first big concert, me doing business with Russell Simmons. And, we had Run DMC, I had the Fat Boys, the Force MDs, and Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. My dad and my brother helped bankroll the concert, like $5,000 for me to really get it popping. And so from there, I went on from different shows, concerts, to television production. I produced and hosted and had other hosts for the Superstar USA TV show. And we also had a magazine called Superstar USA. And all that was free TV show on public access. But what I did was I would make copies of the 3/4-inch tapes and distribute them to those public access stations throughout the tri-state area. And the magazine I would pay for through advertisers. So local beauty salons, barbershops, nightclubs, restaurants, they would pay for ads, as well as record companies. And I would give out the magazine for free in the tri-state area. So that was me. That was my multi.
So you were essentially in the mix of the hip hop scene, no different than I used to be running around. You said Rush Management. I was a Fever Believer. I used to go to the Fever nightclub in the Bronx. So we moved into certain same circles back then. And with that said, I want people to understand who didn't grow up in New York how the hustle was so important to get your grind on as a music promoter.
Well, first of all, you got to know that you're dodging trouble. Especially if you're in the Bronx, especially if you're in Harlem, you're dodging trouble, because there's all kinds of things going on in the streets. There's street beefs, there's drug dealing, there's all kinds of stuff. But I was focused on entertainment. So I was out there promoting this party, that party. I did a lot of promotions at clubs like Bentley's. I would have a tie-in with WBLS where they would promote live on WBLS from Bentley's, and I would book the artists on stage at Bentley. So I got the trifecta because I had my relationships with people like Steve Giuliano and other club owners who allowed me to promote their events on my TV show, but also had sort of privilege to be able to have touch the artist. So I used that leverage to push the publication. And that means me going into beauty salons and barbershops every day, asking them to buy a $25 ad. We'll put that in. But me also going into all the record companies, the Warner Brothers, the Aristas, the Atlanta Records, all of the record companies would buy ads, like $1,000 ads, $4,000 ads if they wanted the back cover, all kinds of stuff like that. So that was my hustle. And then, of course, don't forget, we would get the VIP treatment. That meant they let you in all the clubs, all the concerts, all backstage stuff. This was my life.
So people can understand, and you touched on a few things. You had access to WBLS, and they came in and do their radio promotion in the club, as well as you were on that was the biggest radio station.
And Kiss, because Steve, what he would do is he would give WBLS a time slot, and then right when they're done, he'd go right on Kiss FM. So he literally had the block of listeners on radio, because that's all we were listening to at the time, BLS and Kiss FM.
And to your point, anyone that had the access to the station was the 300-pound gorilla. Puffy was also a beast in promoting. And he had the radio stations on lock. We know that to be true because he had an issue with Wendy Williams when she was on WBLS. She was a radio personality at WBLS.
Years later, when Puff got big and he started to get records and he started to get known, yes, for sure, he got, he had radio airplay.
He had the airplay, and you had the airplay. So you were in direct competition to what he did, if
somewhat, but not really. When I did a party, yes. So that's how CCNY came to be. As I said, Andre introduced us, and so Puffy and I agreed to do. Agreed to be on my basketball team. So it was going to be my team versus the Kiss Cards. And all I did was I got a team of Mount Vernon basketball, very famous Mount Vernon basketball players, Gus Williams, Ray Williams, a whole bunch of guys like that. They were on my team, and we were playing the Kiss Cards. But along with the Gus and Ray was Puffy. Puffy was a basketball player. And that basically all it was a fundraiser. And it was set for the Friday. That's the day before Puffy decided to do this on his own and do CCNY. So he did CCNY on Saturday, and he promoted the hell out of it. But meanwhile, my basketball event, it flopped. I'm just going to be honest with you. It was nothing compared to CCNY, because all his energy was directed at making money at CCNY. So he got on the air with Wendy Williams, and he promoted the hell out of it. And of course, that turned into a tragedy. And
right. So yours didn't flop like his flop. His flop resulting in deaths.
Yes. Yeah.
So, and I don't make light of the fact that people died at that basketball game. Right. It was oversold, and there were many people that lost their life, and he was held responsible for that.
Not enough security,
right?
Not enough, planning. But what happened, Dennis, was I vented about that at my dad's club. My dad had a strip club back in the day called Gilmore's. And we had a lot of popular people that would come through. And on this particular night that I was venting, there was a Daily News reporter there in the VIP area. And I was basically, I think I was just like talking about karma. Look at what happened, And so, long story short, the next morning I get a call from Curtis Sliwa. He was on the radio, on ABC Radio, and he called me live on the radio because they could not get hold of Puffy, if you remember. It was like Puffy disappeared, just like now. And so he disappeared. And so they didn't know who to blame. And they didn't understand about promotion, party promotion, concert promotion. They didn't understand how this happened at CCNY. So they reached out to me. And because I'm a concert promoter, I was that armchair theoretician, that thought leader that could add, sort of a balance to things and to explain what happened. And so that's what I did. And so Curtis Sliwa did his interview with me. And you know what, Dennis, after that, Richard Bay called me from 9 Broadcast Plaza, and he sent a limousine. And before you know it, I'm on stage with Sister Soldier, William Kunstler, Dougie Fresh, and also a couple of the families who had family members that died at CCNY. And not for nothing, I'm going as a thought leader. Look, you need my professional opinion. Here's what it was. And I went on his show. And it really caused a rift between me and Puff, to be honest.
So you mentioned 2 names. I want to so people who don't know, you mentioned Curtis Lee. Well, I just want to give the viewers who that is. He's the founder of the Guardian Angels. You also mentioned William Kunstler, who is one of the most noted late attorneys that handled the big case, the Chicago 6 case in Chicago. He also represented Larry Davis, who was a New York let's just say gangster. He was a New York gangster who was charged with trying to kill some police officers, 4 police officers, as a matter of fact. It ultimately turned out that they were corrupt and they planted drugs on him. So just to bring people up to speed, I'm totally from New York, so I know the history. I've covered Bill Kunstler, and I was also a former member of the Guardian Angels, a martial arts instructor for the Guardian Angels. So that's the backstory.
Wow.
We resonate. We don't have too far disconnected as far as New York's concerned. Let's talk about your involvement. What happened that night? Can you tell people what happened that night? The night that you had the encounter with Puff.
So, be clear. This is before the J-Lo incident in New York. All of that. This is when Puffy was literally on the come up. He was on different records. He's getting artists, but he was getting money. Okay. And I was getting money in my own way. So that night, with the magazine and 2 guys with me, we go from Mount Vernon into the Bronx, into Harlem, and then into Manhattan. And basically I'm going picking up money. And I got my security guy with me, Lance, right? He's not carrying on this particular night though. And this Lance Calfee actually is the trainer for Melly Mel right now. That's who he is. So anyway, he's with me, and I got an intern in the back, Rico. And so we're at PJ's, we picking up money and whatnot. And this cat hands me a T-shirt. He's promoting Death Row East. They're starting a new wing of Death Row on the East Coast. And I took the T-shirt and threw it on. It was I wasn't.
You took the T-shirt, threw it on.
I threw it on. Look, I was not involved with East Coast, West Coast beef. I'm a regional promoter at the time. My TV show is regional, so I didn't have any reason, Dennis, to be afraid of wearing Death Row East. And plus, they were saying the guy that was giving the T-shirts, like, hey, we're about to start this Death Row thing in New York or on the East Coast. It's positive. We're gonna bond the two coasts. I was like, oh, I'm for it. So I threw the T-shirt on. So we go ahead into Harlem. We go to Perks, and so we're going to pick up money, and then Manhattan. So in Manhattan, we go to Downtime. Red Alert is playing at Downtime, which is down in the 20s. Okay. And so again, remember, carte blanche going in and out of clubs. So they let me in front of the line. In the street, there wasn't that many people, but they let me in front of the line. We go in the club, and we're in there for about an hour. Dennis, when we came out of that club, the street was a sea of people. We were only in there for an hour, but there were a sea of people outside, and they could not get in the club. Club closed down because of fire code. So the marshal was standing at the front door. And if you know how that goes, they're not letting anybody in until they let somebody out. So me and Lance and Rico were leaving the club. My Isuzu Trooper is parked across the street, and I'm going across the street. Now it's well lit, brightly lit outside of this club. And I think I feel like I was on stage because I had this bright shirt that said Death Row East really bold on the shirt. And we get in the truck. Well, window down, we're in the truck getting ready to pull out. Who pulls up beside me is Puffy. Now, Puffy was in the passenger seat. He was not driving. He had one of his bully bodyguards with him driving this sports car. It was a sports car with top down, and it was cool ass Puff Daddy, right? So he pulls up to the Jeep, and I figure he wants the space, that because all the spaces are taken. So I figured he wants the space. So he pulls up beside me, and he says, "What's up?" to Rico in the back. Rico says, "What's up?" And then he pulls up beside me, and he says, and by the way, again, he's in the passenger seat. I'm in the driver's seat, so we're literally a couple of feet from one another. And he says, "What's up, bitch?" And so, I immediately, quickly said, "Look, bro, keep your drama." And he was drama. To be honest with you, everybody knew he was drama. And I said, "Look, bro, keep your drama to yourself. I don't want nothing to do with you, whatever." And he says, "Nah, you a bitch." That's his words exactly. So Lance, I look over at Lance, and that ego set in, Dennis. Just being real honest, the ego set in. Lance gave me the look like, "What's up? What are we gonna do?" And so I said to Puffy, I said, "Well, if I'm a bitch, I'll tell you what, pull up and show me I'm a bitch." This is what I said to him. He looks over at his bodyguard, and he's like, and then he turns back to me, all right, like that. And so he backed up. I pulled out, and I went forward to the traffic light. No speeding, just kind of ease up to the traffic light. I figured it was over. I didn't think it was really going to go anywhere. I figured he wanted the parking space. Well, Lance says, "Hey, he's behind us." So I'm like, okay, must be Bond. So at that point, I figured it was going to be a fair one, Dennis. And so
okay, so hold on before you go any further.
Yep.
What? Okay, so there was some machismo going on there because you had that was the it car back then. And did you not feel that this was more than just they were hating on you because of your ride?
No, not at all. Not at all. He honestly, it was the shirt, and it was the shirt connected to the situation going on between us. Like, so in other words, we already had beef, remember, with the CCNY and me being on television and me being you know, the spokesperson, so to speak, you know, of this whole encounter. And by the way, the whole world, everybody was after him. They wanted to know, hey, yo, these 9 people died. Like, where are you? Right. So I get it that we had beef, but also, Dennis, Puff and I had run into each other that night not that night, on other occasions leading up to that night. And there was one time at the Palladium when Biggie and Pac were there to perform Party and Bullshit live on stage. And I was there with my camera, and I saw Puff pass me in the you know, on the dance floor, you want to call it. And I said, what's up, Puff? And then he passed, and he's like, oh, like that, like that. And then he turned around, he says, yo, Gil, like that. Like, and I said, what's up? So he says, hey, let's bygones be bygones. So we shook hands, and that was it. Bro, you could just put that right there. We shook hands, and that was it, right? And so I figured that was it, bro, Dennis. I figured, you know, we square. You feel me? Like, we weren't gonna have any other issues. But then comes this night. So I think it was triggered him was the shirt and the possibility that I could be down with Death Row. And if anybody knows, Puffy and Suge was, you know what I mean? It was on. So I figured, like, he thought I was down with that, and I wasn't. And I wasn't trying to trigger nothing. So no, it was not the truck. Puffy had money. Remember, he had a bodyguard with him. He was driving some fly ass car. He had been on records. He was doing parties. You know, he was on the come up. You feel me? And so that happened. And so anyway, you want me to tell you what happened at we're on the street that night?
Well, no. So you're on the street. You have his homies pull up. You had already did a series of interviews. Correct? You did it talking about the incident. You voiced your displeasure and how he handled it. And at this point, the tension was high already. So yeah, let's go into that. So tell me about what happened.
So and also there was one time in Madison Square Garden, by the way, before the Palladium, that he pulled up on me at backstage at a Jodeci concert. And he walked up to me and he put his hands on the wall near me. He's like, yo, bro, every time I see you, I just get vexed, like that. And he said some shit like, I want to take some kind of drug. I don't know what drug he mentioned, but that's what he said at that moment. Like, he needed some sort of drug to bring him down from how angry I made him. And so, you know, I didn't say nothing to him. I was like, that was before Palladium. So meanwhile, again, we saw each other.
So the tension was high already. The tension
was high. Yeah. So anyway, that night I turned the corner. Before you know it, we're on Herald Square. We're right there where Macy's Parade is staged. And his car veered over to kind of cut my Jeep off, so that I had to pull up on an island in Herald Square. And I figured, okay, let's go. Lance jumps out the car. I jump out the driver's seat. And Puffy and his bodyguard get out of his car. But at that moment, we realized it wasn't just Puffy. There were 4 other cars, Dennis, and they were loaded with his goons, okay? And one of them popped off a shot, Dennis, and the shot hit the Jeep. And at that moment, Lance yelled, gun, gun. And I already knew Lance Lance told me along that look, yo, I'm not packing. And I wasn't carrying nothing. So we were out.
And it was New York City. It's New York City.
At about 1 and 2 in the morning. So I jumped back in the trooper. Lance jumps back in, and I used that trooper like as a stick shift. So I used it like a horse.
Oh, I know. I used to ride one of those troopers.
Drove over the island. Now him and his cronies are chasing me, and we're going down one ways. We're going on sidewalks. I was on 2 wheels at one point.
Well, hold on. Did you see who fired the gun, or you just heard it?
There was too many people. It was too many people. I heard it, and of course Lance said, "Gun, gun, run." And so Lance is crazier about this than I am. He's way more passionate because he had a lot more to lose. Me and Puffy, we got a life. You know what I mean? Literally, we have a life. I have my books. He has his records. We're going on. Lance could have could have caught an L here that night. You know what I mean? And nobody would have thought twice about it. Just like nobody really know who Natasha Rubin was, who got shot by him years later. It's like Lance, you know what I mean? He's the unimportant factor here. So anyway, but Lance was a factor because he was the one that shouted gun, and he was the one that encouraged me to get back in the truck. And so that's how that happened. And so yeah, we're in a literal road race at this point, going down one ways on sidewalks, veering around. I was on two wheels at one point, and eventually I lost him at a traffic light.
So this is in Midtown near Macy's.
Yes, near Macy's.
And you were going the wrong way. What time in the morning was this?
It was like one or two in the morning.
Okay. So
it wasn't busy.
You have Midtown South Precinct, a couple of blocks up.
I honestly, I didn't know where I was running.
Right.
So
okay.
I ended up crossing 42nd Street and 7th, and that's where I lost him. And honestly, we did not go to the police. Dennis, my hand to God, all I had was revenge on my mind. I knew where Misa lived. She lived in New Rochelle. I lived in New Rochelle. We lived on the same block on Main Street. I lived in a big house next to the high school. She lived blocks up next to Waikiki Country Club. And so I was familiar that the kids were picked up and dropped off there. I was, it was a situation. It was going to be a situation, just really being honest with you.
And Aaron, in the 90s, there weren't cameras in New York City on the streets. There was nothing like that in the 90s. So anyone's familiar with New York, no, it wasn't cameras. It was barely what kind of phones did we have back then? Did we even have
with the antennas? You know what I mean?
Yeah. So this is not New York of the 2020s. This is New York of the 90s. So all that, no cameras, none of that. You had the
antenna, Dennis. 1 Adam 12. Come in.
No, but I don't want to make light of this, but I understand how you had to move back then in the 90s. And if you had to have the MCI two-way pages back then. And you couldn't beam no help either. It was different back then.
It was different.
When people hear stories back in the 90s, you got to put yourself in the mindset there. You would have had to get on the corner, pull some quarters out your pocket, or maybe it was quarters. Dimes are back in the 80s. You had to drop a quarter on somebody.
You could probably, use a payphone. It was literally, this was the world. But the whole point here, so Dennis, after that, because I'm sure you want to know what happened after, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So after that, I was very much in a revenge state of mind. Young Black male, ego, machismo, call it what you want. That's where I was with it. And Lance was like, yo, just chill. The worst time for you to get back is right now. Just wait until everything cools. And so that's what it was. But Lance knew where Puffy was going to be the following night. And what Lance did is he went down to the Copacabana where him and whatever pulled up, and he took license plate numbers, and Lance was. Let me tell you something. Lance was.
Before you go any further, do we know if the Puffy? Do you know if Puffy ordered this? How do you know Puffy?
It happened too quick. There's no way he could have ordered it. Like you say, we didn't have cell phones like that. He had his goons that were riding behind him. That shot that popped off was most likely them, just being strap hangers, being sort of an allegiance to him. You know what I mean? So that's how that happened. I'm just so glad I didn't get shot. I'm so glad that I didn't get stomped out. It could have happened in numerous ways where I could have died that night. And I'm so grateful that the aftermath did not.
Did you file a police report?
No.
Okay. Why didn't you file a police report?
Again, I was in the state of mind of revenge. And why would I put this on record if my plan was to come back for him? So no, I didn't. We don't. At my mindset, we the streets. No, that's not how we do. You know what I mean? That's
I get it, but you know, some people who follow the I would call it the proper protocol would say call the police. But if you grew up in New York and you were about if you were about that life, the police would be probably the last people you would call. And some of you might not understand that, but police weren't the best friends of people of color growing up in the 90s. We know this to be true when we speak about Larry David's situation. Anyone from New York understand what I'm talking about.
And especially if you're bringing attention to somebody that has money and influence and fame, then you're really outnumbered. You know what I mean? Because the person with the money and the influence and fame is the guy that really can pay people off or has influence or what have you. So I already knew that I was outnumbered anyway. The only way for me to do was get back at him.
Right, and plus you are still moving in the party scene, and your name would be mud in the streets, and no one would have no respect for you. So I get it.
True that.
I get it. Even their respectable businessmen, some don't.
We don't get no love.
Drop the court on people. So I get that part. Now let me ask you a question. What was it like after the fact when you seen Puff moving in the streets afterwards?
There were 2 times that Puffy and I ran in after that. One, I was at Def Jam. I was Def Poetry Jam. The Def Jam would invite me to these filmings, and I've actually I'm on some of the stuff that you see on YouTube where, the Martin Lawrence and all. And so we were coming out. I didn't even know he was there, but we were coming out at the let out of Def Jam, and he was out there with his son on his shoulder. And literally he says, "Justin, say what's up to Gilmore." And, like he was making not jokes, but making light of, like, forget about everything that happened. By the way, probably a year or 2 passed before, when I saw him again. And then there was one other time that I saw him. I was coming out of the Blue Note. I think that was 43rd Street. And the Blue Note was juxtaposed right next to the recording studio where Pac got shot. And so, and I've been up to that recording studio, but Puffy was coming out of the studio, and coincidentally, I was coming out of the Blue Note. We were alone. He was alone. I was alone. But he had a cast on his arm. And me, I was in a different state of mind, Dennis. I was kumbaya at that point. It wasn't no way I was going to go swing on him or confront him or whatever. It was just like I gave him a heads up, like, I see you. And he gave me the heads up. He saw me. I definitely had him at a disadvantage. I could have definitely done something, but I don't know. I don't know what, in my mind, I was in a different space in my life, whatever it was, Dennis. So that was the last time I saw Puffy. I then went away for some check fraud, bank fraud, at which time I did 7 years. And during that time, of course, you get time to think about things marinate on your soul. Of course, there were times, sleepless nights, when I relived the occasion between Puffy and myself, right? And I decided, since I was already in book writing mode, I had written 30 books in prison, and I was already in book writing mode. So let me go ahead and take this and fictionalize it. So what I did was I wrote a book called Derelict. It's actually just a part 1, and I gave that to 50 Cent. When I came out of prison, everybody wanted me as a writer, and 50 Cent G Unit Books was one. So I'm an original G Unit author, and I gave him Derelict.
Well, hold on a second here. Yep. So now people are going to listen to this interview and say, "Hey, this guy is connected with 50 Cent." 50 Cent has been trolling Puffy for years now.
Yeah.
Did 50 Cent send you? That's what the probably going to be one of the questions. What would you say to those people who said that you might be working with 50 Cent?
Yeah. So the last time I saw 50 Cent was at a liquor signing in Conyers, Georgia. Honestly, he didn't even remember me. I showed him the book. I'm like, Fit, let's get this photo with this book. He's like, oh, let me get that. He's so far away from reality. You know what I mean? Years away from who, like I used to be in 50 Cent's office. You know, I don't know if you saw the picture of me sitting on the pool table, kicking it with LL Cool J and 50 Cent, or I was at his filmings when he would do these little quick videos, and we were in the clothing. I used to go get bags of G Unit clothes. I mean, I was always, oh, by the way, Chris Lighty managed me, Violator Management. So
Okay.
shout out to A.B. Butler. Like I was always up in Violator office.
And rest RIP to Chris Lighty.
Yeah. So I was always in Violator offices. Me and 50 would catch up there. So you know, all the vitamin water runs when he did the 5-city run, like he would go to Brooklyn, Queens, Bronx, and he would just do the whole, you know, run in one night. I was with them and know behind the scenes, backstage. So, you know, it was just different. You know what I mean? That's then. But now, you know, it's different era. Mind you, like the world has changed. We are now social media. He is now a multi-millionaire. His value is probably greater. So he wouldn't remember me from Adam. And so no, I don't have a connection to 50 Cent at this point. I don't even I'm not even I'm a G Unit author, but I don't have any new books coming out on G Unit. I'm doing my own books at this point. So yeah, 50 Cent. Yo, go ahead, keep your foot on Diddy's neck, right? Do what you do, 50 Cent, because 50 has always been that way. He did it to Rick Ross, he did it to Fat Joe. Keep your foot on this boy's neck. But other than that, nah, I'm not. No, 50 didn't send me.
Well, let me ask you a question. Knowing that there's been multiple raids on his home and these lawsuits have been filed, are you considering, and I don't know if the statute of limitation has expired, would you consider?
Nah, I'm not interested in any of that money. I'm not interested in going to court. I'm not interested in any of that. Like, I'm not interested. That happened. My refuge, my get back is for me to be able to write my memoir, for me to be able to write my books, because all that I had been through back in the days in the streets, it really fueled my book writing capabilities, and it made me what I am. It gave me the grit, so, and the gumption. So I don't care. Like, but I'll be honest with you, he's done some horrible things to people along, or alleged, right? All over the years. And yeah, there's stuff that went to court too. There's stuff that went to court. Yeah, so he's done some things to people. And I pray that those people get the recompense, is that what we call it? You know, and get what they got coming. And you know, what I feel like what happened recently with them going into his homes, they are serving the the retaliation that all of his victims can't get, because they are the powerful government, and his money and his influence and his fame can't fight the powerful government. So if you've been constantly still doing wrong, like we've seen on the video that you had of Cassie on the floor in the hotel room, and you're chastising her and all like that. If you've been doing this to women all these years, if you've been hurting people all these years, well, look, karma is coming back. Karma's here to meet you at the door. And so I just like wash my hands of it. I'm not interested in any kind of going back to court, or I'll tell my story, Dennis, but at the end of this is my story. You know what I mean? Nobody's stopping my story. I'm not getting no cease and desist orders. This is my story, Lance's story, because Lance was in and Rico's story. Rico was in the truck also. This is our story of how we literally almost died that night, with whether by gunshot, car accident, or a beat down. Any of that could have happened that night. And you know what? Not for nothing, but maybe that if something would have happened to me, maybe that would change the trajectory of his life. Who knows? Like, he went on to make a lot of money, but he made it with on the backs of others, Dennis. He made it doing the bad boy act. He was always trouble. He was always instigator. He, that whole "what's up, bitch," that's the verbal. But then to take it to the physical, where you can cause somebody a car wreck, or you can shoot guns at someone, or you can, threaten a beat down. This is where it gets serious, because had any of that gone down, Dennis, my future. I wouldn't have all these books. I wouldn't have these movies coming out. I wouldn't have a daughter who was born after this. You feel what I'm saying? So all of this was relative in my life. I'm now part of the Puff Daddy story.
Are you concerned with, for example, there were allegations or claims that Puffy might have been responsible for Kid Cudi's car being blown up? Are you concerned about your safety at this point? Because
not anymore. Not anymore. Puffy has made it safe for his victims to come forth. Thank God. Okay. I feel safe now that I could tell my story. It was time to tell my story. By the way, since I wrote my book, 2 other people approached me about writing books. Natasha Rubin, who got shot in the face and shot in the nose that night at Club New York. And also Angela Goudet, who worked at Uptown, who Puffy barricaded in the office. And, he was, how men, he's doing what Puffy do. So people continue to come out of the woodwork. And now, of course, there's a dancer that came forth that you might know of who had stories. So we are all mirroring the same notion that we might not have been, and you even said it, with the powerful people at the time could have squashed our story. The powerful people could have squashed our story. Like it's hard. It was hard to come forth with a story at the time. Today, everybody's got access to the internet. Whether it's your daddy, or your uncle who took advantage of you back in the day, everybody's bringing their story to the WWW. So at the end of the day, no, I'm not afraid. Unfortunately, he's part of my legacy. Just a small, footnote. But he is part of my legacy. I'm part of his legacy. And that's just what it is. So I'm not afraid of his fans. I just wish people would get over the whole, trying to take the black man down and, but he's got great music. Oh, he did a lot for the culture. Nah, man, I don't feel that way. I feel like if there wasn't a Diddy, there would be somebody else. If there wasn't a Russell Simmons, there would be somebody else. If there wasn't a Harvey Weinstein or a Jeffrey Epstein, there would be somebody else to do, what to take their place. So I'm not really like feeling that conversation. I am here with my testimonial. This really happened in my life. I really might not be here today if it wasn't, for me being sharp and enough to and alert enough to jump back in my truck and then being a hella aggressive driver. I'm a hella aggressive driver. I come from New York streets. This is who I am as a driver. You know what I mean? To the point that, I have some community service to do down here in Atlanta for having a heavy foot on the pedal.
Oh, so, my goodness.
Yeah, it's real. So, yeah.
How heavy was your foot, my man?
About 10 over. That's what the cop says. But thank you to that cop who took it down. But yeah, that's real.
Had you shared this story with your family members, like your kid, I don't know how many children you have.
Yeah, I have 4 kids. 2 of them at least are aware of it. My son said, Dad, I remember that. I hate Puffy. And then even my ex-wife, she says, oh yeah, I hate him. Like I'm not even connected to my ex-wife like that. She hates him. So, there's don't forget all the CCNY families hate him.
Hold on one second, Aaron. For the members, it was taken off of membership for 10 minutes, but it's been on membership for the duration. So we teasing the public, so to speak, but it's definitely on membership. It's definitely on membership. So don't calm down. This is on membership. Go ahead.
Wow, I see a lot of comments. Wow, man. Wow. Okay.
Well, we're not gonna read the comments right now.
Okay, no, I'm not gonna read them. But if it's something that I can respond to, I would love to. Go ahead, Dennis.
Okay. Yeah. I control this interview, sir.
Okay.
Does anyone have any questions for Aaron? This is your time to ask him a question, because obviously this revelation is significant in that he's making a claim and many people are going to look at this and say, "Wow," and he didn't get prosecuted for this.
Things, Dennis. Like, number one, somebody said it's hearsay. Where did the gun point? Where did the shot come from? Well, look, we're on a late night, 1 a.m. in Herald Square. There's like literally no traffic, and you got one like coupe, sports coupe, expensive sports coupe, and you got 4 other vehicles that are kind of pointed different ways, and who all pull up. And now all these goons jump out of the car and a shot pops off. Like, where do you think the gunshot came from? And the other thing about New York City and cameras, this was dated. This was back in the 90s, right? And so it wasn't like that. So for all of you who think there's cameras on every corner, this isn't the Big Brother world that it is today. Yeah.
Right. So yes, if you have any questions, ladies and gentlemen, yes, you ask the questions.
And by the way, I have no hate from Misa. Misa, I didn't want revenge on her kids. But I will say this, is that when it's on, it's on. Who knows when you're young and you're the name of the book is called The Night Puff Tried to Kill Me. So if you Google that, you'll be able to find it. And you'll find the Black Enterprise story and so on, and some other stories that people that have done interviews. It's called The Night Puff Tried to Kill Me. And again, it's short. It's not like my other novels, Dennis. My novels are 300, 400, 700 pages. But this is it's nothing close to 60 pages. And it's really like so somebody also says, why was I the target of Diddy? I think we already answered that. Maybe you came in late, but we had a little hostile blood that in his mind anyway. I wasn't angry at him that I was going to chase and attack him, but he felt that. And that's because probably because I was on that stage on 9 Broadcast Plaza, etc. Why did I come out? Why am I coming out now? That's a question. Well, again, I had this story on my soul. I slept in prison with it for 7 years. I vented on paper, and I fictionalized a piece of it for the book I have with G Unit Books. It's in the book called Derelict. I didn't use his name. I just changed the name. And when we do fiction, we change the name to protect the innocent, so to speak. And then now, though, with this memoir, I wrote it in my birth name, DeWitt Gilmore. And I wrote it because it is my true story. I wanted to give facts. I do feel safe with saying what happened, how it happened, and I don't care about how the chips fall. So, that to answer that question.
So right now, the U.S. Department of Justice, ASAs are interviewing potential victims as relates to Puffy. Are you expecting a knock on your door?
If they come,
would you cooperate? At this point, it's been so old. So
I wonder what they would want from me to corroborate the type of character that he is versus the type of character you guys see on Entertainment Tonight. He's got a long-running history that I think by this time everybody should understand the difference between the hype and the person that he really is. So would I come forward? I don't know that they want my information. I'm a small footnote in his world. You know what I mean? Just like he's a small footnote in mine. But just like from my look, I'm from Mount Vernon. We have a lot of mutual friends. When I say a lot, I'm talking about a sea of mutual friends. Everybody from Albie Shore, who has recently spoken out.
Well, he kind of alluded. He didn't actually,
but that's because he's got children. There's kids in this, and he's concerned about how they're taking this. And I get it. They're tap dancing. A lot of folks are tap dancing. They're not really saying what it is. Like, I think anybody who's got a conscience at this point, who cares about our women, we need to say what the F it is. Like, it took a long time for those women to come out against Epstein and Weinstein. It took and Peter Nygard and Cosby. It took a long time for people to listen to Beverly Johnson and what happened to her with Cosby. I mean, it took a long time. And I'm like, look, of course I wasn't the victim to the degree that Cassie was, but for sure my life might not be here if it wasn't for this dude attacking me that night. How does he know it was Puffy if he didn't see? Oh my God, what are you talking about? I told you that he pulled up beside my truck and he was in the passenger seat and I was in the driver's seat. That means we were feet away. Okay. He pulled up to me. I was there. What's up, bitch? The whole story. Did you just pop in on the story and miss the whole beginning of
Sometimes
the
that's what happens, Aaron. People pop in.
Okay.
They hear it.
I knew it was him. We know each other. Andre Harrell introduced us. This happened in like broad daylight in a sense, because even though it was late at night, the streets are lit up. So yes, it was Puffy. It was Diddy. It was Sean Combs. It was who you call Brother Love. So all you guys that are shaking and bopping to the music, I give you peace. You know, I don't have no argument with you. I understand that you're intoxicated by the whole take that. Not me.
One question I have over here that you didn't answer. Here it is.
Aaron, are you familiar? Relentless, are you familiar with the book that Kim Porter was? Yeah, I understand that Kim had a book. And honestly, there's a lot of people that could have stories because there are people that worked for him. There's a dancer that she just said online, like, maybe I need to do a book, you know, because there was Angela Goudet who wants me to write her story. There's Natasha who got shot in the nose. And those are just the ones I know of. What about all the people that he did this to that I don't know of? Are you saying, am I not the go-to to write their books? I don't know, but maybe there is an anthology here, Dennis. Hello, and maybe who could do the forward for this book? You know what I mean? So there's plenty of opportunity here for people to turn their lemons into lemonade. Why should they go to the courts to get there? You're not going to get any victim money at this point. Go ahead and tell your story. Let's tell our stories as true as we can and go ahead and make our own money. We don't like you if you could have died or if you were abused by him or any of that, come to the table. I say, let's do this. I will fund it all. Let's tell the story. Let's put it out.
Recently,
Surviving Diddy.
Recently, Mark Curry came, you know, he's been talking a lot. I just seen him do an interview on Law and Crime. Why do you think Diddy sell his differences with Mark?
Why did he settle? Or
why didn't he settle his differences with Mark?
Because now that he tried to settle with Cassie and it didn't work, it backfired on him. He spent at least 20 to 30 million on Cassie, okay? And he thought he was gonna put a lid on the story. He did not, right? So for him to now think that he can go put a lid on everybody else, it ain't going to work. So in other words, Cassie let the worms out of the barrel. He knows he can't do it with the others. So pay off everybody, literally pay off everybody to turn him back into an angel. It's not going to happen. Now he just has to deal with what he's got to deal. He's got to come to the Lord and he's got to deal with his truth. And his truth that he is the bad boy. His truth is that he's filthy, not guilty. His truth, he put this in your face, America, to the world, to the globe. He told you he was filthy, but not guilty. And in fact, his people told him, hey, you better blank out that filthy word in that music because you're basically saying to the world, into the court spaces, who, by the way, found him not guilty, right? In the J-Lo bit, right? They found him not guilty.
In the Shine.
And then he came forward with the G-Dep song that he quoted that in. So there's a lot of nuances here. There's a lot of untold stories. I'm like, look, tell your stories. You know, you're part of Diddy's history. If you were hurt by him or harmed by him, tell that story, get it off your shoulders. At least you'll get that kind of therapy, because for me, it's therapeutic. Speaking to you honestly, Dennis, I don't care about the money. This is like, I'm making like $3 and change from a book. I'm giving it away. You know what I mean? It's digital. I don't care. I'm not printing the book. I'll print 10 copies. I'll print 100 copies, give them to people, but it's therapy for me. This is therapeutic to get this off my shoulders. When I leave this earth, I'll have 400 books and I'll have many movies, and I'm done. I said my piece, you know. So that's why, Dennis. It's no other reason. I don't like, bro, to Puffy, and I doubt he'll see this. If you could beat these charges, God bless you, bro. I hope you learn something. I hope you evolve. I hope you come to the Lord, do whatever you got to do. I hope you make amends with the people you hurt. But for me, I'm done. I said my piece. You know what it is. You know what you did that night. I said my piece. I don't know if I'm going to be doing too many more of these interviews, but for the Kim Porter books and the dancers books, Dennis, to your point, go ahead, tell your story. Feel comfortable with it. He's not coming after you. You don't have to worry about him paying people off. This is out there now, you know.
What someone had a question. I'm gonna post that question real quick. I know you did answer it.
Was Aaron in interaction with Diddy the night of the shooting? Sorry if it was covered in the beginning. Yes, he's the one. He pulled up on me and instigated that whole thing, and nobody knew it was going to be guns. If anything, it was going to be a fair one between me and him. But I should have thought better. I should have. If I had my druthers right now, Dennis, I would have kept saying, Sean, bro, leave it alone. I thought we made peace. Leave it alone. Oh, I probably wouldn't have wore the Death Row East T-shirt because I didn't.
And that could be a problem too, because the Source Awards and what was going on during that time.
But I didn't think of it as a trigger. You know, that Death Row East and stuff. I'm rather that Death Row thing had moved further along already. I did not wear that shirt to be a trigger. So if anything, I apologize if I triggered you, brother. I apologize if I didn't give the response that we have to learn to de-escalate, Dennis, because if we don't learn to de-escalate, everything can turn into something else. It always takes two to tango, you know. And so at the end of the day, no, my interaction with Diddy the night of the shooting, I could have been more on the de-escalation. I could have more kumbaya. God bless you, my brother. God bless you, my brother. You know what I mean? And not gotten into all of that rah shit. But that was it, man. I see so curious.
But you know, you said it happened in the mid-90s. The Source Awards was in 1995.
Yeah, this happened probably around 90. I should have wrote these facts down. This probably happened more like 96, right before I went away. So probably right 95, 96.
So that it happened on the heels of the Source Awards. You know, the Source Awards in 1995. Your interaction was the following year. So wearing a Death Row shirt was probably not the smartest thing to do.
Honestly, again, I'm regional at that point, Dennis. I'm not. Remember, we didn't have social media. This was what happens in your town kind of stays in your town. And honestly, as much as I knew about the East Coast, West Coast thing, I wasn't thinking globally. I wasn't really thinking about, and I was not unafraid. I had just come out. I was out the Marine Corps, Dennis. I was working out. I had security with me. You know, I'm on that raw, you know, like,
right.
Honestly, I was in a different state of mind, Dennis. So I wasn't afraid of, you know, anybody saying, hey, you're wearing a Death Row East T-shirt. I wasn't. It just wasn't where I was with it. The purpose of Aaron being a guest until
now you had I want to say you had reports. There were reports of Clive Davis possibly I don't know, being a part of the whole, you know, creep squad.
Got to remember, Clive Davis bankrolled him initially. He bankrolled him. You know, he brought him over and got that whole bad boy thing started, right? But then there were other multi-million people richer than Clive Davis that Puff got connected with. And not for nothing, but I understand the rich and wealthy wanting to be connected to hip hop. I get that because they have no way in. So if they can meet him at a hot club, right, and a party, can you close that, please, sir? if they meet him at a hot club or a hot party, you know what I mean, and they're doing their thing, like this is typical. This is typical, you know. I get it. Oh, thanks for throwing the book cover up there.
So this is the book cover. This is The Night Puff Tried to Kill Me.
Yep.
Nice cover. I wish I would have shot the cover, but that's another conversation for another day. Go ahead. Aaron, anything else you want to leave with the people before we conclude?
We need to do better. This guy could have really been a real troubadour and a real leader in our world, had he not gone left. If you look at all of the ones that have been taken down or that have been questioned or whatever, it's because of their dicks. We are boys behaving badly until we get mentorship. And at the end of the day, we have got to control our dicks. That's really my story there.
That's a interesting conclusion, and I'm sure people get your point. Pause.
Yeah. Pause. Right.
And with that said, ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate you guys coming in. Aaron, thank you for telling your story. Let's see if this can perhaps inspire others to tell their story. And I have to say this, just because my attorney will be all down my back. I have not, because there was no police report, I was not able to confirm this. You're telling your story, and I'm giving you the opportunity to tell your story. The Hip Hop Inquirers and Dennis Byron want to allow people to be able to tell their stories. So with that said, I always post this as well. So this is for you.
I appreciate that, Dennis, and I appreciate all the people that in the chat and everything like that. Whether you are knowledgeable or not, kumbaya. That's give peace a chance. That's all I gotta say. Now I understand where Rodney King came from when he was like, yeah, can we all just get along? I really do get it, and I think it has a lot to do with age and where you are in your life. And I just wish that I was always like kumbaya. I could be president. Who knows?
Thank you. President who? President
Relentless.
President Relentless. Okay. People want to follow you. How can they follow you on social media?
And thank you for Max talking about. Thank you for your service. I appreciate it. So just again, Koji is old. I tried to Google the book and it's bringing you to Koji. There's a bunch of links, so you can't miss it. Go to my IG and in my bio, you'll be able to see the link, and it'll bring you right to the book. Go right to my bio on IG, and it's Relentless Aaron everywhere. You can't miss it. RelentlessAaron.net is the website. I'm on Facebook. I'm on IG. I'm on TikTok. Tickety talk, as they say. So I'm just everywhere. So just Google Relentless Aaron. I appreciate you. And also it's called The Night Puff Tried to Kill Me. And I appreciate all your support. Thanks, Dennis. I appreciate you, man.
I appreciate you as well, my brother. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. With that said, we are out of here. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining the show. Let me give you a little background. First and foremost, this interview was conducted last year. This was right after the raid on Sean Puffy Combs' homes in both Los Angeles and Miami. So we were kind of ahead of the story. We didn't know at the time that Mr. Combs would be indicted. I had spoken to Aaron this morning, and I want to get a follow-up to this interview. So some of you might have thought it was in real time, but this interview was conducted when his home was raided, right after his home was raided. That's Puffy's home was raided.
I think it's important to bring Aaron back up because he was in New York during Mr. Combs's last status hearing in federal court in the Southern District of New York. And he was sharing some interesting things about just that experience. But he was on a live this morning. He was up since last night. And I think I joined his live at 6 a.m. But he is taking a nap right now, but he'll be back available at 1 o'clock. So I think I'm gonna bring him back on, ladies and gentlemen. I really enjoyed talking to him. It brought back memories, from my time in New York City. And when I say I was in the mix, I was in the mix for a while in the city. I produced events. I did parties. So I was an entrepreneur. So being an entrepreneur in the entertainment world, you get to rub elbows with some of the who's who, as well as being a celebrity photographer. I was able to get into events that others would not have been able to. So when I listen to people speak now about, and these are the people that couldn't get behind the red rope. There are a lot of people who did not have access to Puffy's regular parties. Nevertheless, it's alleged freak-off parties. So our lives kind of parallel in the sense that during that time, Sean Puffy Combs was the dude that people were trying to get in his parties. So when you hear a lot of the high-profile people quiet, they too they weren't really trying to get in the parties, they were invited. And I have a lot of images from that era where you can see there was some of the who's who of entertainment that were trying to get into his parties. And again, we don't want to conflate the two. He had his regular parties, and his regular parties weren't regular parties. When I say regular parties, they were still the top tier parties in New York, Long Island. And when you start going outside to West Coast and start touring around the nation and doing the bigger parties, that's another conversation. But people have their stories, and like Aaron said in this interview, you don't have to, and I can't tell you what you want to do as far as lawsuits and everything, but if you have a true story, a vetted story, you want to reach the people, tell it, put it in a book, tell your story. This is your opportunity. But make sure it's authentic. Because I listen to certain people talk, and I'm not going to call anyone out. I've heard some stories. I'm not going to call you out, but it's things I know. There's a lot I know that I haven't really spoken on because I was in the mix, even with Biggie, even helping draft a contract for Biggie. So I listen to certain individuals. I'm not going to put them on blast now, but I've heard them tell certain stories, and I know for a fact they weren't there. So it's important for me to bring in people like Aaron to share his story. And while that experience is not my experience, that's his experience. And he has the right to tell his story. But it's interesting that people want to rewrite history. Some people just want to rewrite the history. I heard a reference to a story involving Lil' Kim last week. But I don't think that individual knew that I did some work for Lil' Kim. So I've worked with different artists over the years. And people that know me for a long time know I've not only been on the photography side and media side, but I also had a very successful talent company as well. I was looking at the movie In Too Deep, starring LL Cool J, Hill Harper, Pam Grier, Nia Long, Sticky Fingers, and I was watching the movie. And one of my talents was starring in that movie. That was signed to my company, Gano Grills. Go watch In Too Deep. He's the brother with the braids from Brooklyn, Starlin. He actually did the logo for the Wu-Tang Clan, but he was signed with my company when he landed the role of In Too Deep. They later on went to do the movie Shaft. So those who have known me and know me from that part of my life, they know I've made some very important moves behind the scenes for some very important people. But I don't really talk about that now because, for one, contractually, I don't speak on a lot of things, but some things I can talk about. That's one of the things I can talk about. So I think it's important that people who have their stories, and when I say having stories, they can, it's a way of vetting a story, because then if you told the story, there are other people who can substantiate the story because they were actually there. It's not hearsay. When you say you have two other people in the car, they can substantiate your story. No different than you listen to the YSL trial and you hear someone say something like, well, I heard something from someone else who heard something from someone else. Well, that's hearsay. You have a firsthand account of what that person said. And why is that significant? So when the trial starts with Puff in the federal government, they're going to bring Cassie in to substantiate some of their charges. How will they plan on doing that? She's going to get on that witness stand because she's victim number one. And she's going to have to tell her account from dealing with Puffy directly. She's going to have to say that he told me, that would be Mr. Combs, who's going to be sitting in the courtroom, that he was responsible for Kid Cudi's car getting torched. So that's not hearsay. That's from his mouth to her ears, and she's conveying to the jurors. So it's interesting when you look at how people doing recounting what happened in certain stories. But I'm not going to give too much away right now, because I too have a book to come out. And I encourage you to watch when that book drops, because that's when, how do we say, we spill some of the tea. Some of the tea, not all the tea, because some things you got to take to your grave. Some things you have to take to your grave, because you got to respect other people's wishes. And that I'm of that school. I'm of that fiber. Some things you just got to take to your grave. You won't be able to waterboard it out of me. You won't be able to torture me. It's just too, it is what it is. But some things you can share with people. Everything's not for everybody, but enough can be for somebody. With that said, ladies and gentlemen, I do appreciate you guys coming in and joining the live. Make sure you are following us on Twitter at Mr. Dennis Byron or at Hip Hop Inquirer, as well as on YouTube at Mr. Dennis Byron or at Hip Hop Inquirer. And if you want to reach out to Aaron, he's put his contact information in the interview. But reach out to him. He's a good brother. He's a good brother. I heard him out there in New York. He was shouting outside that federal courthouse and said, "Wait a minute, Aaron, what are you doing out? What are you doing in New York? What are you doing?" It's one way to promote. All the press is out there. All the press is going to be, and I'll just say this, and I'm sure you guys, most of you probably know this. If you got a product or service and you're doing a book and it's relative to what's happening, you need to get, you need to get in front of the cameras or something. You want to be some of the reporters and journalists want to be out there. I'll be one of them. Show up in New York. Be in New York City in December when his next hearing starts. There's gonna be a lot of press out there from 6 a.m. in the morning until 2 or 3 hours afterwards. And that's how you connect with the media outlets that you probably never will have access to, because they're going to be out there. But if you have a real story, because I, for one, like to vet stories. I just don't let people get in front and just start telling their story unless I do a pre-screening of the person I want to interview, and I give them my thoughts on their story. And some stories never make it to at least my platform because it didn't pass the test. If it doesn't pass the smell test, it will likely not be told by me or me providing that person a platform. But it has to pass the test, and it has to pass. I talk to attorneys. Hey, listen, this is what he wants to talk about. What do you think? Am I opening myself up for liability? You're not going to pierce more than me. I'm not going to be that guy reading the letter. Never had to, never will. I won't say never will. I never had to. Because if you get your story past me and it was bogus, you did a lot of lying. I'll just say that. What happens in December? Now I just say, well, Puff has another status conference with the district judge. So that he has something in December and he has something in February. So and this trial is slated for next May. So I don't know if that's going to happen, because lawyers can also file the necessary paperwork to extend it if there's too much evidence to go through. But I understand the defensive strategy. You may have a plethora of videos to go through and review and everything, but my client has I want to say it's a 6th Amendment or 8th Amendment. 6th Amendment right to speedy trial. And that speedy trial clock started already. So this is why the judge is scheduled for for May of 2025. We've been past an election. Depending on who gets in office, I don't know where this case is going to go. Do you guys think Trump will give Diddy a pardon? What do you guys think? I don't know. People are saying all kinds of stuff. Will Trump come in and save the day? I don't know. Save his day. I don't know if he's saving other people's day, but who knows? We have to see. Guys, stand by for a second. Stand by, please. So that, my friends, is just something to think about if you're trying to, get yourself in front of the media. With that said, ladies and gentlemen, please make sure you tell a friend about the interview. I think it was a good interview. I don't know if you guys liked the interview, but I do think it's a good interview. With that, we'll see you guys on the next live. I appreciate you. I really do. We out. Stand by. Okay, hold on. Hey, John, do me a favor, John. Do me a favor. I'm sorry. I'm trying to get my my engineer over here. John, take us out of here. Take us out of here.